When we look at the hip drive, it's one of our primary movement patterns. So it's something that we absolutely need to nail. And like everything else we're doing, we're going to start with a more primitive position, a little easier to nail it, and then work our way up to standing and into more loaded postures. So hip hinge, as the name implies, we're going to hinge from the hips. Probably the biggest mistake made is too much movement through the low back or the lumbar spine. Meaning, let's just go to standing. So this is where people get in trouble. Instead of hinging at the we round through the spine. Every time we do that, even if we're not picking up much weight, we're exposing our back to issues. So what we're gonna do is start in a tall kneeling position. Your knees are gonna be out a little wider than hip width. Your feet are gonna be together. And you actually wanna be able to press your heels together. So I used landmarks, the bottom rib to this front hip bone here, the ASIS. What we're looking for is a neutral position at the low back. So what we don't want to do is go into an exaggerated arch, lordotic curve, and we don't want to round and go into flexion. So we're going to find our neutral, and then a lot of times I'll use my thumb on my ribs, my little finger on those hip bones, and that's my gauge. If those points get further away, I'm arching my back. If they get closer, I'm flexing my back. So what I want to do is hinge through my hip joints. So I'm going to hinge back, and then as I come up, I'm pressing my heels together and firing my glutes. Another thing I want you to think about, since we do have this wonderful articulating spine, technically people could stay pretty upright even though they're really throwing their back out of position. I just want you to think, if my elbow represents my hips, my shoulders are up here. If my hips go backwards, my shoulders need to go forward. So we're not rounding to go forward, but as we hinge, we do have to angle forward. So it's not vertical spine that we talk about, it's neutral spine. And that neutral spine can angle based on hip hinging. Come up, good glute squeeze by pressing your heels together, and then right back down. Come back up, good glute squeeze and back down. That's going to prepare you for the next 3 weeks.